Well, do you have business?
Nothing. Yeah,
I like your picture of the historical.
all right. I'd like to call this meeting to order. This is the regular meeting of the Leonard Village Council. And welcome, everybody. Today is August 13th. September. It's easy. What is today? September 10th. My apologies. Living in the past. Before I call the meeting to order, I'd just like to recognize our festival committee for running another successful event. Better late than never. They had the Derby race on West Elmwood, and it was a big success.
It was nice.
There was winners, and
Very well
there
done.
were people came, and they got, I think, front page coverage on the Oxford Week.
Yeah.
And also our decorating committee, they did some considerable amount of work on the four corners this past weekend. Many residents volunteered. It was really good to see new faces involved. And we had, between the volunteers and we had the stone was donated by Eric Eisenhardt for the white limestone. So it was much appreciated, and it was a good effort. Okay, that said, if everyone would rise for the pledge of allegiance and a brief invocation. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Dear Heavenly Father, we ask that you be with us and guide the decisions that we make. May they be in the best interest of this community. In your name we pray. Amen.
Okay. We have a roll call for attendance of the council.
President McDonald?
Here.
Mrs. Sotheby?
Here.
Mr. Amarante?
Here.
Mr. Huffman?
Here.
Mr. Kennedy?
Here.
Note for the record that both Clerk Cindy Grosskopf and Treasurer Judy Burse are present. Okay. Council has received the minutes of the August 13th meeting. Are there any questions, changes, or corrections? If none, a motion to approve them would be in order.
So moved.
I'll second.
Are there any questions on the motion? Hearing none, all in favor of approval of the August 13th minutes, 2018, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, please say no. Okay. Council has a proposed agenda in front of you. Are there any questions, changes, or corrections? If not, a motion to approve the agenda
Can you
would
make
be...
the corrections on it though?
The date.
The date?
Oh, okay, yeah, we need to correct.
Mike, I've got one thing here.
I'm not talking to you yet, Dave. Thank you.
Well, it's about the agenda.
Thank you. It doesn't matter, it's too late for the agenda, Dave, at this point, okay? Unless the council makes a change.
Well,
You have to have, items have to be in
that's what I'm requesting.
10 business days prior
Well,
to the
this
meeting.
should be on the agenda.
Okay, not now, David, please, don't be disruptive. Okay, so, council has an agenda. We're going to amend the date to today, September 10th, and the minutes as August 13th. Are there any questions on the amendments?
I'd like to make a motion to accept the agenda with the amendments as stated.
I'll support it.
Any question on the motion? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion to approve the agenda as amended, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, please say no. Okay. Council has before it the treasurer's report. Are there any questions, changes, or corrections? If not, a motion to approve and file the report would be in order.
I make a motion we receive and file Brendan's report.
Second. Are there any questions on the motion regarding the treasurer's report? Hearing none, all in favor, or we do a roll call on that, please?
Mr. Kennedy?
Yes.
Mr. Moranti?
Yes.
President McDonald?
Yes.
Mr. Hoffman?
Yes.
Mrs. Sotheby?
Yes.
Okay. Accounts payable. Council has before it the bills payable for the month of August. Are there any questions, changes, or corrections? I believe there is a correction.
Right.
Under major,
It should just say
It
chloride.
just needs to switch chloride, and then under local, it needs to say chloride 637.20 and grade is 300. So they're in the wrong spot.
with that change, are there any questions? Is there a motion then to pay the bills as amended?
I'd like to make a motion to pay the bills as amended
In the
in the amount of, $6,660 out of 23 cents out of general, $1,265.24 from major, $997.20 from local, and nothing for mill, park, and recreation.
I'll second it.
Are there any questions on the motion? Hearing none, can we have a roll call to pay the bills?
Mr. Hoffman?
Yes.
President McDonald?
Yes.
Mr. Moranti?
Yes.
Mr. Kennedy?
Yes.
Mrs. Sotheby?
Yes.
All right. At this time, it's an opportunity for the public to address the village council. We ask that you be brief and to the point, and note that you will have opportunity to comment on the business items at that time, if you are here to speak about those. So would anybody care to address the council? Yes, sir.
I'd like to know if we can get some gravel down the alley. Get some pretty good sized potholes in there right now.
Okay. I'll get with Darren, see what we can do. Anything else?
Well, I don't know if it's the time or not, but I see you're going to have tree removal. There's a tree down by where Grandma Lobzine used to live. I don't know who lives there now. There's a dead one there. It's been dead for 10 years now. It's right in front of Grandma Lobzine's house. You've seen it. Sure.
Well, that'll be for another day, I think. It is all the way dead?
Well, there may be at the top maybe 5 or 6 feet that is green a little bit, but the rest is dead.
Okay, thank you for bringing it to our attention. Anybody else? Yes. Mr. Radford.
I got some things here. I had trouble getting to look at the master plan, but I did look at it. And the design looks good, but the guts of it aren't very good in my opinion. They're basically the same of what we had before. The paper I sent you is a copy of commercial development showing 1991's master plan and 2018, and they're exactly the same, except we now have number 8, which is okay. The problems I had with the non-residential use setup here, and I have a copy here of the 91 master plan at the bottom and the 2018 at the top, which says the village does have a significant commercial and industrial presence in relation to the size of the community. It should include the, I don't know what the community is, if that's the surrounding area or not, I don't know. I don't think that a wood shop, auto shop, barber shop, antique shop, party store, post office, that's not what I would call significant commercial presence. Then it says, these uses are located chiefly east of the intersection of Elmwood Street and Forest. Several of these properties are available for new tenants. 2 of them are mine, so that commercial growth could be accommodated without necessarily developing other areas. Well, I think you're very well aware that without sewers, we're not going to do anything down here. It's just not going to happen. And I do believe we qualify for the 80-20% grant for sewers because of our income level. How long will that income level stay low? I don't know, but we shouldn't be fiddling around or we'll lose it forever. The population growth in the surrounding area indicates there a potential for additional commercial facilities. So that's good. That's stated in 91 also. This is very misleading, as this should be stated in the village commercial, but it can't because it states that the village commercial number 4, the village residents want to limit commercial growth. That's in the 1991 and 2018 master plan. I want to know when we voted on this, because you can't say that. This village cannot say that unless you polled the people or we voted on it. And I know we didn't, because I've been here both master plans. So something's up. Don't know what it is, but we'll find out.
Left, Dave.
That's cool.
Keep it moving.
Yeah, no. We want to get out of here within 40 minutes. Most meetings run 2 hours. Cut down. Anyway, village commercial. This land use category is designed to satisfy the need for retail and service uses. The plan does not indicate additional commercial growth in the village. We're having conflicts in this master plan. They say the reasons are the population. Well, if you include the surrounding area, we well fit into having commercial expansion. Also, the existing retail in the village satisfies the day-to-day needs. I disagree. I already stated what we have in this town. That doesn't satisfy my day-to-day needs in any way, shape, or form. This one's really bad. Other retail needs are met by nearby commercial areas. What is up with that? Why are we not working in our own town? And number 4, I believe, is illegal. The village residents would like to maintain and enhance their existing character as a small rural community, which is fine, but then we've got, and limit commercial growth. Again, I never voted for that. Why is it in there? In fact, they used it against somebody. Look on the back of this and you'll see how they stopped growth. Planning Commission Chairman Blanca entertained a question to the village if they could change the wood shop property and the house west of it to commercial, and they said no, based on the master plan, it couldn't be done. So we've got some conflicts in this master plan, and they need to be fixed.
Yes, we appreciate that, and it's really helpful that you provide us with this information. So we will make sure to look at it and we'll pass it on to the Planning Commission. But at this point in time, we're moving forward with the master plan. There is a public hearing that's going to be scheduled, most likely early November. So you'll have an opportunity to speak to this again, which would be the appropriate place.
I know, but I want to get this out right now.
Okay.
This is illegal.
That's technically your opinion, and you're entitled to it, and that's why you had 5 minutes to talk about it. So thank you very
I'll
much.
have Lee call Phil and we'll see what it says.
Mr. Atkinson does not respond to board member, council members, and you're not one anymore, Dave.
Really?
Yeah.
You did when I tried to
Yeah.
pay taxes.
He also called me afterwards and asked who was paying for it. And I told him that we would pay for it this one time because he had already spent the time with you.
Got no problem
But
paying.
he has specific directions now that it needs to be authorized through the village before he speaks to anybody that calls
You
him.
can send me a bill
Okay.
if you wish.
No, that's not how it works. You'll have to contact the village first. Anybody else?
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. Bruce Hall, for Headsman Bar and Grill. I submitted a petition last meeting, and I did collect another 100 names I'd like to submit. It's not going to be today. I just wanted to ask, council if you guys done anything in regards to petition to change the liquor license. And second is I did bring the copy of the grant that is available to help you guys, not only economic development, but pay for sewers. There's just, the EPA is where to go for infrastructure here, not really the DNR or DEQ or nothing like that. Who do I give this to?
We'll receive and file it here.
Oh. Where'd you get it?
Okay.
That's the ceiling on that one was for $3 million. And then the lowest was 100,000 because I know there was concern with the sewer. Basically the initial evaluation, paying for it. I don't think it would be a problem, of applying that, not going to do that for a village. So, other than that, and then the first part of the question was, have you guys done anything in consideration with the amount of names that you guys already have?
No, we've got, we're on record in council. I don't know if anybody's looked at them yet or not.
Okay, well, I just...
You said you have some more to give us?
Yeah, I
Do
do.
you have them with you?
No, I was gonna stop back in, next Wednesday.
Okay.
If that's okay. And then,
Sure.
that's why I figured I'd ask, because I've been compiling, making sure I wasn't doing redundant names and, knocking on doors and saying, okay, they've already signed, and they signed. If they didn't, then they didn't. But, I just was hoping that the council would have came to a decision without having.
So we don't reach decisions in private. They're all done at meetings.
Yeah, no, that's why I'm here. I'm asking for, just open the channels of communication and, let's have a little bit of growth. It's not not do something because it's old or it works. And the town seems like it's kind of not doing so well. I think it'd be a positive thing. And for what our situation is and what we want to do, we were looking for input from everybody here and, close down early or what kind of, decoration you'd like to see. And we're not trying to open a water hole. We're trying to open a respectable business / type restaurant. But that includes...
The property isn't being maintained now. I'm not sure what would you expect from the village?
Well, what I expect from the village is that some kind of go-ahead that we're gonna do something.
You would have to submit a proposal, site plan request, and it's a change of use that you're asking for.
For as far as the restaurant,
Pardon?
the restaurant / bar.
Sure.
So I mean, is that the council's recommendation at this point to go forward?
We can't recommend this. You're a private citizen. You can do whatever you want.
Well, in behalf of the business, I mean, is that what you would like? I mean,
The normal process for a property owner is to submit, in this particular instance, because it is a change of use, it would have to go through the planning commission first.
No, upon the, upon if it was under approval, what kind of restrictions is on the old liquor license that's still available through the village?
If you use the property as a store, which it has been in the past, it would have to have a quick site plan review because the building hasn't been used and it's got some code violations and stuff. And we just adopted a new code for property maintenance, etc. But once that was accomplished, planning commission could give you the right to go ahead.
Okay, that sounds good.
Okay. All right, anybody else care to, Mr. Blocky?
On the agenda, in the treasurer's report, under Mill Park Recreation, It says mill, $7,822. What is that?
On the budget or in,
Treasurer's report for office. Second page.
It's donated money that the mill has got.
So there's been $7,822 donated.
I can't understand what you're saying, the amount.
It says $7,822.73.
That's donated money
Yeah,
for the mill.
yes. It's actually,
That's a current balance.
So the current balance that's in the mill account that's been
yeah,
donated.
okay. Any other questions? Okay, anybody else? Moving on to new business. This is an annual request. The village participates in the Pro-Tech organization's membership because they look out for the protection of public right-of-ways in communities like Leonard. Our dues would be $50.38, and I'd recommend to the council that we continue to be a member of this organization.
I make a motion that we pay the dues for Pro-Tech. Stay a member.
In the amount of $50.38.
Yes, sir.
Is that monthly?
No, you're annual.
I'll support.
We're going to do it. Any questions on the motion? Hearing none, roll call please.
Mr. Hoffman?
Yes.
Mr. Kennedy?
Yes.
President McDonald?
Yes.
Mrs. Sotheby?
Yes.
Mr. Moranti?
Yes.
Okay, sanitary sewer study proposal. I apologize to council, we did get it to you a little bit later than I had hoped, but Doug Skiles from Road Services is here. Doug worked on this to get it, to kind of tailor it to our needs, and you did have a little time to review it, so since Doug is here, Doug, do you want to make any comments? And then
What I outlined is a game plan basically to evaluate some options for the village. We're aware that you guys worked with Oakland County back in 2009, I think it was. So we would use what's available and prove for that, maybe the maps or whatever. But it's a matter of looking at the village, and I don't know the format you guys would choose, if you would start a committee for this or however you want to do it, but we would work with you on how to do the evaluation. And what you need to do is figure out what district area you want to service, if that's the whole village or this part of the village or these parts here and this part here. So you define where you want to service at, and we would look at the zoning and use of that and try to estimate some flows, because that's really what it comes down to for sewers. How many gallons per day are you going to generate in sewer flow? Because that determines pipe sizes or pumps or even different options for treatment. So we would be working on flows. Once we get that established, we would look at a couple different types of collection systems and then some treatment options. And treatment options are really dependent on the volume of flows that we have to work with. So, it could be anywhere from hybrid, what we call subsurface or on-site treatments, to sewer lagoons, to a small package plant, depending on the volume that you have. And work through those options with you. I know that we had sent Mike some information about rural development that's funded through the USDA. They have a program where they have some money available. And offhand, it looks like Leonard could be a candidate for a partial grant, partial loan. So I put some time in here to facilitate a meeting with the folks from rural development so they could sit down and say, okay, this is what we're looking at. Here's some rough costs. rural development, what do you think? Is this a fundable project? And, what would they need in order to determine the potential for grant versus loan? Let's see if we can size that up for you. Knowing that you're looking at potential rural development funding, we would look and work with the committee or whomever, more than just a village, what's the community thinking? So is there a need for sewers somewhere else? Rural development wants you to look at multiple options, so one of the requirements we'd have is, well, where is the nearest sewer system and what would it take to utilize that system? Well, maybe it is a long ways away or maybe it's not very economical, but you look at those options so you can show that we looked at the big picture and no, it's not cost effective to send the sewage to wherever, Oxford or wherever the closest sewer is to here or whatever. So you look at those options. And then also as part of this, once we whittle down type of collection, how much flows and some parameters for treatment, we would look at some cost opinions, develop those, and sit back down with the community, and then make a presentation to you guys. So that was 2.5 minute speech for them.
No, that helps.
Any hypothetical figures yet?
No. And really, it's very dependent on the number of parcels and the type of use to determine the flows. So, when we met with the folks from the Water Resource Commission, it's always interesting to look at the whole community, but you have to ask, does the whole community need sewers? And there's pros and cons of that. I mean, the more users you have, the more people you have to spread the costs out on, so maybe that's a benefit. But if you have pockets of areas in the village that don't want sewers and don't need sewers, then there's some benefit to not having them in the district, because then you're trying to force a sewer system on them that they're not going to want to participate in. And that causes difficulty too.
Okay, are there any council have any thoughts or questions? We obviously have not budgeted for this in our budget. So, and we still haven't finished Elmwood Street project. Excuse me. So, I didn't come prepared tonight to recommend. I would recommend that this is a legitimate proposal that would definitely suit our needs, and that we could determine, or it would determine, the desire of the community and the need and the cost, depending on what type of system we would be interested in. It also would give us the ability to contact MDAR or potentially the EPA and see what monies or grants might be available. Beyond that, Doug's here tonight to answer any questions that we might have. One thing we might expand upon, Doug, is there are different treatment options out there, right? Mm-hmm. Kind of depending on the flows.
So let me just give you an example. We just did a smaller scale study for Hadley. So Hadley's a small community, it's a township, but they have the four corners. So when somebody mentioned four corners, I'm thinking, well, that's interesting. I thought that was only Hadley people talking about four corners, but they have a small commercial area, but they have no sewers. And their soils aren't very good, and it's typical of small communities, right? You start out with a small store, and then maybe next to it you get a barber shop or some other service, but they're all very small lots, and back in the day nobody really built very big septic systems, so they don't function very well. They've been there for many, many years, and they're not functioning well. And the Lapeer County Health Department has told several of the property owners that they're not going to issue any permits for septic fields in these areas because the soils just aren't good for it. And so they're in a quandary and they want that area to grow a little bit. So there was some momentum by the council to look at doing sewers, did a smaller scale study. And again, just like I told you guys, it's all about the flows. So if your flows are in this area, then that opens you up to this type of treatment. But when you get up above a little more, now you got to do more treatment. You get up more, then you have other treatment responsibilities. And in Hadley's case, and I think it was on the very conservative side, but their flows were just under 20,000 gallons a day. Well, even that number is probably larger than what they would use in our conceivable future. But that put them into an area where you could do what we call subsurface disposal system. So it's a hybrid, community-owned septic field. It's really a disposal field. And that seemed to work because their volumes aren't very high, so you could construct those. And just like you can in many septic fields, you can design them for the current flows, but then there's ways where you can look at adding to it in the future to expand it if you needed to without having to tear out everything you did. So it's not exactly like, oh, you can put this in for $10 and then 5 years later this is another $10. I mean, the costs aren't quite that way, but you don't have to tear out what you did. And so Hadley looked at that, and I did a presentation there in May, end of May. And so they were in the phases of talking to property owners to see, of the 27 parcels it was going to serve, how many of them want it, and would they be willing to pay for it? Because it's a fair amount of money, depending on how they decided to distribute the cost. So, in that case, assuming that the community at large doesn't pay any of it, then you're taking the total cost and distributing the cost to 27 parcels. So whether you decide to do that by flow, by parcel, by some other REU unit, that's yet to be determined. But I think they're still garnering support for it. And there are some people that are really in favor of it because they can see where they could develop their properties that would benefit from sewers. And then there's some that are like, they didn't really have any plans to expand and they're kind of okay the way it is, so why would they want to spend that kind of money? And they're having a hard time seeing the value of it. So Hadley's struggling with that right now. So it's a little smaller scale than what Leonard is, because that was 27 parcels, and it was specific to commercially zoned property. So, but it was interesting, because just like you guys, they want to see some development, and without sewers, you're very limited on what you can develop, particularly if you're looking at restaurants or food service. There's ways of doing those on septic systems, but they're pretty expensive and the failure rate's high because of problems with maintenance and stuff. So.
Okay. Anything else?
I have
Mr. Radford?
I don't know if you're aware of it, but 13 years ago, the county came in and tested our sewage problems, and they recommended that we buy a piece of property on the southeast corner of the village that's got 20 acres of sand, and they were going to put that exact thing you just said, a raised septic in for the whole town. And it's up for tax sale, but it isn't being sold. I think that's an area that we should pursue since it's available. I didn't know if you...
We did check into that, Dave. It's not available. They're making payments on it.
Yeah, they're on the payment plan.
The county treasurers,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well,
So
he
it's not-
decides-
So it's not available.
No,
We try to find it.
It's-
Well, you said it's available, it's not.
it's a negotiable item. It's for sale.
Right.
We aren't going to get it for free. And that's my point.
Well, we won't get it without a sewer study because we
Yeah.
can't buy
I know.
mine
I know.
without a sewer study.
Well, I just wanted him to be aware that there is a site available.
As I think Doug alluded to that in the very beginning, and he's seen the 2,000
as a question for you, how long do you see that this study taking?
It kind of depends on who we're working with here. If it's a committee, I would say it's probably 6 or 8 months, maybe. You know, it's not something that you do in just a couple of weeks.
No.
Because it's kind of a back and forth process, so, you know, we would have a kickoff meeting and hopefully get enough information that we could start the process, but then defining the district and working on some flows, well, now we gotta come back together and say, okay, is this really what we meant, and do you really need this, and are these flows seem reasonable, and you go back and forth with it, so, yeah.
Yeah, I foresee that we would want to create, not necessarily an ad hoc committee, but a small committee that would be a couple members of the council and some residents or property owners that would look at this so that we could really get a good gauge of if there would be enough support.
Yeah, you might want to consider somebody from your planning commission
Right.
to look at future use.
Did I see your hand go up, Leslie? Excuse me.
The study is over 22,000. Just the study, just so that if you didn't know in the audience.
Right. And that actually was quite good because the county was talking, 12 years ago, 10 years ago about $25,000 to $30,000. But I mean, those were just estimates.
Right.
So I think that's a very competitive.
Yeah, and we're hoping that we can take advantage of some of the data the county has, their GIS information and utilize that. So, some of those things might not be as intensive to do, create the maps, for instance, and leave things, but.
The surveys and whatnot would be, a lot of that stuff, the topography would be readily available.
Yeah, and for the study, I mean, we don't get into the detailed design, so it's not that critical. But Oakland County has pretty good information available, so.
They do. Leslie?
What about polling each parcel owner to find out if they are even interested in septic for this village, to see how much square footage in the village would want it or are, interested in it? And
That's the dilemma, is that without an idea of the cost, people said, well, if it's cheap enough, why wouldn't I want to have a sewer? But if I have to pay X amount of dollars every month and I don't really need it, or, you have one neighbor that wants it and the next neighbor that doesn't because this person has a lot that they could split, or they have a vacant parcel already or something like that. So it's pretty hard to give that information without knowing what type of system and how much it would actually cost. Nobody wants to spend a lot of money on sewage, but it's key to, at least in our downtown area, getting things off from where we are now.
But if you have to put in a septic field, and you can't because your lot isn't big enough.
Well, yeah, Dave, you can get a big factor.
All these lots, thinking the small lot, 50-foot lots down there.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, because all of these small lots, yours and the others,
Yeah, the whole road here.
would all benefit from it.
Yeah,
So-
and that's who should.
As would the people that live on Mr. Malaya that has a small lot. In the event his septic failed, or Mrs. Olson, or whatever, there'd be an option. Otherwise, most of those lots now, the county would probably require them to have a package treatment system. And possibly an engineered field if they had the area, the lot area, but if not, those package treatment systems are $30,000, $40,000. So,
I don't think it would cost that much to pay for the sewer over 40 years.
no, I think it would probably be, you're probably right. But again, as Doug said, it depends on how many are in, the size of the system, and the type of the system. And those are the things we don't know without doing a study. But I'm leery of doing a general poll because people don't have any idea. And you don't, unless you needed it, that would be the only reason to say yes. But it's certainly an option. Maybe at a committee level, the committee could decide
Did
to do
we
that.
get much feedback from the survey we sent out a month ago?
I was actually, we haven't collated them or tallied them yet, but we did get, I think we received 6 here at the village, and I think the county got several, but
That's not very many.
not given that they were all direct mail to the residents.
I'm just saying that polling, they may not answer, because they didn't answer the other one either. Though I think it's a good idea to have their input if they care to do it.
Okay, is there anything else from the council for Doug? If not, thank you, Doug. Appreciate it. And Judy and I will meet and go through the budget and hopefully communicate with you what if any options there are.
You could check back with the 2 guys we met with from the water resource, because they were trying to figure out a mechanism to loan the village the money to fund a study and then pay it back over time. They were pretty confident they could figure it out, they just didn't have a mechanism that fit into that. But I think they're willing to help you out with trying to figure out how to do it.
Okay. Yeah, I should touch base with them. Okay, thank you, Doug. Okay, moving on to unfinished business. We're in the process of scheduling MDOT for the final walkthrough. Hopefully that'll get done before the snow flies.
Yeah, yes it will.
Excuse me.
I'd like to say in regards to what they did, I do not understand the benefit of putting that mesh down with grass seed to only grow weeds. Very few areas where they did that did they actually get some nice grass. For the most part, it looks nasty.
I did speak with Doug, and I did speak with Don, our DPW guy, Doug, and Don said that when they needed soil, they went over to the DPW and they grabbed what he had, which was a mix of soil and stone and stuff. It wasn't like they brought in 20 yards of topsoil and redid those. But there was, as you indicated to me, there was some plowing from snow plowing. There was some stone and they had deposited, but I tried to grow seed. I seeded out in front of my house, but I put an inch of topsoil down first and it grew up pretty good. But the stuff that they put down it never took.
It never took in front of my house either, it took cycle.
And I saw Kay and Mark out doing in front of their house, doing what I did, putting soil down.
I said, don't touch it, my husband will have a heart attack.
Somebody drove on it, I think the tire tracks.
Oh, yeah. He put it down Saturday afternoon and Saturday evenings. The kids were out there.
Sore subject. Okay, so I'll update the council when we get a final date and some of these conditions addressed.
I think the final walkthrough is a formality we have with MDOT, and we're in the process of final, I'd like to say final, it's not final, paperwork to close the project out. The work's been done. I think we have to do one more pay application and balance everything out. But as you've seen, like the MDOT calls them contract modifications. They don't call them change orders. But we've had a series of contract modifications that pay for different things along the way. But because of some changes were made during construction and the quantities we had in there, we've benefited greatly by all those change orders being a negative amount, and the final one will be a negative amount as well. I think we're to the good of $30,000 or so So in the big scheme of things, you know, the project started out at this dollar amount, but it's gonna finish at a much lesser dollar amount, so I guess that's a positive to it.
Absolutely.
So,
It's always nice to not spend as much as you have to get.
Yeah.
As long as you get the quality of the product.
and, you know, don't forget we added a couple things along the way, so.
Which we did appreciate because it does help, especially in the downtown area and with the water drainage. So, okay, moving on, tree removal bids. Council, as you recall, we had 3 bids last night for a tree at Division Street near Elmwood, and it was brought up that there was another tree further, well, Dwayne Brokaw's house.
4536.
So we went back out for bid, and including that tree, I don't have the old bid from Ellen, do I? But
14.
they're talking about leaving the brush from L&L, and we don't want the brush left. The brush has got to go. So, but their bid came in at $1,400. Budget,
What's that big brush that I wrote last week?
it says leave brush by road.
Yeah, I said it last week.
Okay. Okay, so where they got that information, I don't know. But
Now, Owens, did they only give us a quote on one tree?
originally,
Originally, didn't you?
yes,
They didn't record it.
and they didn't re-quote
Okay.
this time around. And I don't know if it was a communication thing or not, but
Well, it looks like they're the lowest bid, if they were interested in doing both.
Who's that? Oh,
Owen,
I got a bunch here. This is the lowest one I've got so far.
you know, Owen, $420 for the one tree. The others were like 600, 700 a
I
tree.
think it was 250 to grind out the stump.
That's just to grind the stump.
Why, that's just for the one tree.
Yes.
295.
695.
Grind this stump for 100. 400. That's awful cheap for one tree, I tell you.
Who was not?
$1,025 for Owen to do all of it.
Oh, okay, so there was another one, okay.
I didn't
Yeah.
see that.
So this is
Yeah,
probably the extra.
There's an addendum here to the quote from
Yeah,
Owen.
that's a bad one.
And so it looks like it totals about a little over $1,000
So there was 690 plus this.
for both trees, et cetera. And that includes chipping and leaving the firewood side of stuff. So what's the plug, that would be up to the council then.
This.
What was the name of it?
It's a-
Owen Tree Service. I think this one is based out of Attica, but I'm not, I can't verify. So what's the pleasure of the council?
We dealt with that company when I was on the Beer and Horticultural Society, and they were a very nice company to work with.
They've been around a long time. The council, is there a motion then to approve the,
I'd like to make a motion to approve the multiple quotes for Owen Tree Service to remove the 2 trees
I'll
in the
second.
amount of $10,000 or $1,025. That's what you said it was, right?
I'll second that.
She said 1215.
Can't
Pardon me?
find it, right?
what did you total it up to be, Judy?
12,
11.
1115.
$1,150.
150.
$1,150.
1,115.
All
Yeah, 600.
Okay. So we have a motion and a support. Are there any questions on the motion? If none, roll call, please.
Mr. Hoffman?
Yes.
Mr. Amarante?
Yes.
President McDonald?
Yes.
Mrs. Silverby?
Yes.
Mr. Kennedy?
Yes.
Motion carries. And we'll ask them to take a look at the tree on Elmwood Street.
88 East Elmwood.
Are you gonna talk to Don anytime soon about,
You know, I don't call him at work, so.
he doesn't owe you paperwork or anything this Thursday or? Okay, well, I'll get a hold of him then. All right.
I know this isn't the time, but while we're talking about the beautification thing, the street, Elmwood, Forest and Elmwood Street sign is gone by Sam's Market there right in the corner. The top, the pole is there, but someone must have unscrewed the whole thing and took it away.
Yeah, that's been on for months, if not.
Has it?
Yeah.
Are we ever going to replace it?
Don said they're not available. You can't get that type of holder anymore. But, and the only, I don't know if we can even replace the signs in that old style or if it would have to be the new, reflective green signs.
Well, if we're not going to put it back, let's cut the pole down anyway. Just, it sticks out there like a sore thumb.
Okay. Put a speed limit sign up.
So if we put something on it.
Okay.
The corner.
Yeah.
All right.
A birdhouse. Yeah.
But we talked about that the other day when we were doing the corners. It's gone and it's just, looks kind of dumb.
Okay.
I guess just as a quick question.
Yes.
The road, or the trees that are typically over the road, like if you're coming from North Rochester Road into town, I know I've come into town late and I didn't even see the stoplight until I was already coming down Sam's.
Oh.
I'm not sure who's responsible for those trees. Is that MDOT or is that us?
No, that's us.
Because it's,
If
it breaks pretty hard.
If the trees are on or over the right of way.
Okay.
Yeah, I've noticed that, not the problem here, just here, it's 32 miles the same way.
Yeah.
You gotta be on. Okay, I'll talk to Don. We can trim some stuff.
Okay.
Ourselves. So. Okay. Moving on, DPW, I really don't have anything. I'll pass along to Don about the need for either grading or gravel on the alley. So we did get one Freedom of Information Act request. We'll be responding to that here shortly. We had not gotten any applications or requests for assistance for block grant. Ordinance enforcement is kind of static. I did send notices to, it was to where Mrs. Thomas used to live and Mrs. Biersinski about the noise and go-karts and stuff. I have not heard anything further, and the village did go, I had Don go and cut what he was able to in the rear yard at Mrs. Thomas. But quite honestly, there's no forwarding. The only record of address we have is hers.
Right.
So we sent the letter, and did we get it back?
Yep, we did.
We got it back, which is what we need. That's proof of notification, so we can enter the property and do.
Who owns the property?
We have no idea.
The kids.
Yeah, our son is in Canada.
Well,
Way up in, but
He is the,
Is that here?
yeah,
we have no.
but then you've got the two girls and the one is really pulling out right now.
Well, there's gotta be a title transfer within.
Yeah, when that happens and the county gets it, we'll know who.
Okay.
They have
and we can, if it comes to that, we can place a lien on the property for the time and money that we spent maintaining it while they did. So. Okay. I think that's all I have. So we can go to the trustee committee reports. Summer festival, I think we're pretty much all set there.
Did we ever get a financial statement from them?
We know what we spent, what we expended of the money they gave us, and there is they have a positive balance with us.
Yeah,
But-
we usually get a financial report.
Yeah, I don't think we have we, do?
Mhm.
Okay. All right, so will you follow up on that, see if it's gonna talk to the, is that Marie or to Phyllis? See if they're gonna provide that. Cable commission?
Nothing new to report.
Thank you. Decorating committee. How you doing, Kay?
Okay.
Oh, come on, smile, you know?
You don't look like you feel too good tonight.
Yeah, no, I've got a cold and trying to, and I seem to cough whenever I laugh, so.
Well, we have a meeting tomorrow night, and we gotta start putting together what we're gonna do for Halloween.
Okay.
And it won't be long before we have to figure out what we're gonna do for Christmas,
Right.
because it takes time.
Yeah, take advantage of starting early.
Yeah, we need to go over and clean it out in there. I get tired of cleaning it out, because every time somebody goes in there to do, they want something, they throw all their garbage and throw everything. I mean, that place is, so we're gonna go in there and clean it out again.
Yeah, for the Strawberry Festival, I know that a lot of stuff gets moved around and disturbed.
They just throw it in there and then they go out to leave it.
Yeah. Well, maybe you'll get some help this year.
Had a pretty good meeting though the other night, I thought. You know, a lot of things, you know, people wanted to talk about and get started, and I think they got a hell of a start on it right now, so we'll see.
Yeah, it's good
Just, we gotta have a little bit more communication, that's the only
That's
thing.
it. It has to be, we are a committee. We are not one person, we are a committee. Everybody needs to know what's going on, and that's not happening. So we just have to get that straightened out as well.
Well, some of these people are new to it, so.
I think I'm partially to blame for that. I just coming out of surgery, and, you know, she called me and says, we got this, you think we can go ahead and do it? And I said, go ahead.
Yeah.
You know, I didn't think, call Kay, just let her know.
Well, she called me, I told her to call you.
Oh,
Because I wasn't home when she called me and I had no information, so I told her to call you. But I mean, I had no idea they were gonna do that Saturday.
yeah, that's what she told me.
I did ask that they let the village know.
Oh,
next
yeah,
time before
exactly, you know, before you do something
But
major
it's
like that,
mostly-
we have
it's-
to all work together.
Yeah,
you know,
it's safety
know
and
what's going on.
liability.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, sounds good.
Where did you start?
Okay, planning commission, Leslie.
We have no new current requests or site plan evaluations for this month, so we're not gonna have a meeting.
Okay. Is there a motion then to cancel the planning commission meeting?
I make a motion to cancel the planning commission meeting this month.
Second.
Any questions? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, please say no. Okay, Pollyant Trail, meeting, next week, 19th, Wednesday anyways. A lot going on the trail. Most of it, I think, is going to be happening in the southern end of it, though, from this point on. The DIA is still here. Their art's going to be coming down, I think, beginning of October, somewhere in there. So if you haven't been out to look, get out there.
I have a question. Now, on the trail one, Callie, let's say like our committee wanted to put some
something along the trail, do we have to have their permission or we're in our village here, or do we have to,
Well,
we can't just go ahead and do it if we want to do something? Do
No,
we have to
right,
have some-
yeah, it should be processed through the Pollyant Trail Management Council.
Yeah, I kind of.
But I'm on it, so if you get with me, I can certainly help in that area,
Okay.
okay? Right, Main Street, I think, with I think Main Street is tied into our sewerage, so, you know, it's something for the downtown, it's something for, to help, with business as well as for people, that live in the area, so, they're the ones that have suggested that we get a mixed committee together, which I think is a good idea, should we progress to that point. Village Parks, we have a meeting this Wednesday here at Roland Hall at 7 o'clock. And North Oakland Transportation, they moved their meeting to September, Mondays. What is today, 10? The 17th, at 10 a.m. at the NODA offices. Due to they're adopting their budget and they have to time it to coincide with the truth and taxation and the millage request. Okay, Community Development Block Grant, we got a summary. I don't think there's been any changes on it. And same for the Historical Study Committee, we haven't had any activity with that either of late. Okay, that's all I have. Council, anybody have anything they want to bring forward?
I make a motion to adjourn.
All in favor of adjourning? No, I don't know.
8:03.
8:03. Please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed,